Welcome everybody to Extreme Off-Road Silly Bills, and today we're dealing with the 1955 Porsche 550A Spyder. Now it's a 645 horsepower, 578 pounds-feet of torque from a 2-litre turbocharged flat 4 engine. The car itself now weighs 1,551 pounds, has off-road tyres, all-wheel drive and off-road suspension, and it can now do 0 to 60 in 2.894 seconds, 0 to 105.764 seconds, and going to a top speed of 259 miles an hour. So yes, stat-wise this is fairly impressive. The speed, acceleration, launch, and in some respects the braking off-road capability are all really rather solid. Only letdown is the handling, because obviously it's quite an old car. Certainly wasn't meant for this level of power. You're talking about 6 times the power it had originally, or thereabouts. And yeah, obviously it still weighs very little as well. So yeah, and at the end of the day, it is a classic sports car. So not meant for going off-road, not meant for all-wheel drive, not meant for off-road tyres either. So yeah, there's a lot going against this, but there is a theory going on in my mind, at least, that this, with its little amount of weight and the fact it's not got a ludicrous amount of power, although obviously way more than it had originally, it should be really rather easy to control, even if the handling stat isn't particularly great. But my theory is that with it being so light and hardly slow, it should have no trouble gliding over these bumps and jumps. So yeah, hopefully it's like the two jets in the fact that that also didn't have the most amount of power on a car in this series, but it's also very light and very capable despite being a sports car. Oh dear. Yeah, going over that jump did not work out there. We'll have to use 2 of our rewinds to avoid that. Less of a sharp line in there. But obviously with it being as light as it is, if it does get thrown around like we just saw there, it can be hard to regain control. As well as any road furniture is going to slow us down quite a fair bit as well. Doesn't have the bulk to push through it as well as other cars will. And with it being rear-engined, there's also the possibility of a lot of oversteer as well. So yeah, a lot of pros and cons to this car, but hoping that the pros will outweigh the cons and prove to be a quick car. How quick it will be in comparison to, say, the likes of the Brabham in the previous episode, which stormed into second place, we'll have to see. But I was very impressed by that Brabham, despite being a track car. It's a very impressive one here, so yeah, but obviously that's a far newer vehicle than this, so if this comes anywhere near close to that, then I'll be surprised. Having the most amount of power, because I think it doesn't weigh much, it's flying down these quicker sections. We can't let it run away from us because we don't want to lose control. Very easy to do in a car like this. Oh dear. Fence. It's very agile though, which is obviously going to help. Next to it being very small, very light. Being as light as it is means that even though the brakes are not the best stat-wise, it doesn't have much to slow down in terms of momentum, so extremely wide there. Well, we're not quite as quick as the Brabham, but we're hardly slow. Comfortably into the top 10, near enough I feel. 3 minutes 18.632. Now we're just on the border of the top 10. Beating out the Hot Wheels Diora 2 though. as well as the McLaren 620R, the Lexus RCF Track Edition, the Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro, and the Ford Mustang Mach-E 1400. But yeah, we're just over 0.7 of a second or thereabouts slower than the Nissan GT-R Nismo, which is just about clinging on into the top 10, as well as the likes of the McLaren 765 LT, which isn't all that far ahead, as well as the Plymouth Barracuda Formula S, the Subaru WRX STI ARX Supercar, and the Dodge Coronet Super B. And yeah, you have to get into the top 4 before you drop below the 3:17 mark. So yeah, but still really rather impressive for such an old car. And yeah, it's easily the oldest car in the top 20, I feel. Let's have a look. Yep, the next oldest car is the Barracuda, which is 13 years newer than this, and then the Dodge Coronet is 2 years newer than that, and then the Volkswagen Pickup LX is 12 years newer than that. So yeah, fastest car that is before the 60s, that's for sure, that on this series so far. Although what have we actually taken out from before the 60s, if anything at all? Let's scroll down. Nope, we haven't taken anything before the 60s on this series. So yeah, that is obviously a an achievement that isn't really difficult to make when you got no competition. But yeah, we have taken plenty of cars from the 60s, for instance, and yeah, there's only one car, like I said, the Barracuda, which is actually faster than this from the 60s. So yeah, that is still really impressive. And yeah, considering it's got way less power than a lot of cars in this series, wasn't a car that was ever meant for this kind of power or speed. So yeah, it's well and truly out of its comfort zone, even if you don't take into account the fact it's going off-road. It's yeah, fairly impressive, and I imagine if you got a lot of practice in with this, you could make it even faster. But as it stands, that time is still impressive on its own. So yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.